Hello everybody and welcome back to the United Stand Erik Ten Hag Press Conference, and Erik Ten Hag has come out swinging. He is not happy. He is not happy at all with some of the comments after Manchester United's win against Coventry to put Manchester United in the FA Cup final, and he made it clear as a manager he's been in 4 cup finals in 4 years. He had a lot to say about the press and the media regarding their comments and the negative comments. Bites back. Erik Ten Hag really did seem like he was frustrated today with a lot of what the media has been talking about. Is he justified? We'll get in the chat down below. Should Erik Ten Hag be annoyed, or are the comments necessary considering the performances that Manchester United are putting in? We'll discuss that. I have my own thoughts on it as well. Also, some bad injury news on Alejandro Garnacho, Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford, Scott McTominay. More injuries for Erik Ten Hag. It just seems like a weekly thing now, and we generally just cannot catch a break with injuries. It's something we've got to put up with, but we shouldn't have to put up with. Going to talk about that. Also, some comments on Antony's celebration. Also, some comments on why Manchester United have consistently lost control of games across the season, how Erik Ten Hag can fix that. A few comments from the officials as well, and quite a juicy press conference reaction for you this afternoon, and a lot to get into. So welcome everybody to the show. So let's start off with the first thing. So before even anything from the presser, this just got put out literally before we were about to go live, and this was coming from the MEN. So Ten Hag was already quite edgy when he walked in today. When he walked into today's pre-match presser, he said, "Good morning," correcting some who said, "Good afternoon." Sharp, I noticed. Not everyone is sharp here, Ten Hag noticed. When he was asked who is not sharp, he replied, "Oh, the majority, I would say." So already walked in, Erik Ten Hag said, or he said good morning, correcting him, and said he's corrected some people who said good afternoon, and he's basically said the majority of the people that were in the press conference, is i.e. the journalists, are not sharp. The majority of them are not sharp. So already you could see Erik Ten Hag had his back up, and he's clearly frustrated from a lot of the reaction from the press, in the media, after his win against Coventry in the FA Cup. Is it justified? Is it not? Get in the comments down below. And then he goes on to say, he gets asked about the criticism against Coventry because, you know, at the end of the day, Manchester United did get into an FA Cup final, but the criticism came from Manchester United being 3-0 up and bottling that lead against a side that's 8th in the Championship, and that's just not excusable for Manchester United, no matter how many, injuries you have. But he says, so he gets asked about whether the criticism is justified, and he said, "No, absolutely not. You made enough and won the question. Is it embarrassing? No, the reaction from you is embarrassing. It is the comments. Top football is about results. We made it to a final and we deserved it not only by this game but also other games." Talking about the Liverpool game, which was obviously a tough one. And then he said, "We lost control for 20 minutes. We also had bad luck, 3-2, 3-all. We were very lucky in the end, clear. Penalties was very good and we made it to the final. It is a huge achievement. Twice in 2 years is magnificent. For me as a manager, 4 cup finals in 4 years. The comments are a disgrace." So, Erik Ten Hag is being feisty. I mean, a lot of people in the media have called Erik Ten Hag out for not having much of a personality. Well, he's showing a bit of personality now. The comments are a disgrace. They are embarrassing. That is what he's labelled the media around the comments after the FA Cup. I mean, I've got a lot to say. First of all, this gives me vibes of when Jose Mourinho was in the press conference and he talks about how many Premier League titles he's won. He goes like, what was the quote about Jose Mourinho Premier League titles? He was like, he's got more Premier League titles than all the other managers have in the league combined. And he goes, respect. Everyone goes, respect, when he stands up and says that. That's kind of the vibes when Erik Ten Hag says 4 cup finals in 4 years for me. 2 with Manchester United, back-to-back with the FA Cup. It gave me them sort of vibes. He clearly has his back up, and this is a manager that is under a bit of pressure. You can tell. You can tell by the way he entered the press conference. You could tell by his demeanour. He is under a bit of pressure, but he's come out swinging. He's come out fighting. And I feel like Erik Ten Hag is in a situation where whatever he does, he's going to get criticised either way, and people are going to call it for being wrong. So, first things first for me, I actually think a lot of the comments after Coventry were justified. This isn't the first time we've bottled a lead. This isn't just bad luck, as Erik Ten Hag calls it. This team has a track record and has a history of bottling leads. And at half-time against Coventry, like, let's be honest, I was saying, I mean, I've got literally footage of me saying, I think this is going to end up 5-0. We're not going to let it slip against Coventry. They've literally offered next to nothing in the first half. We look quite comfortable. And then as soon as that first goal goes in, you can see the mentality start to capitulate. The comments are justified in a way, in a sense of Manchester United fans have standards over how Manchester United should be playing, and these performances are just absolutely nowhere near it. And people could criticise Erik Ten Hag's in-game management. I mean, I do think taking off Manu was completely the wrong decision. It's your most important game, but then again, it's 3-0 up. You think that Erik Ten Hag could make some subs, and any players on the pitch should be able to see out a game. So you can see it from both sides. At the end of the day, the senior players on that pitch should never have let it get the way it was. But also, Erik Ten Hag's in-game management wasn't great either. It was a combination. But the fact of the matter is, this isn't the first time that Manchester United have capitulated. And you've got to understand, as much as the respect we can give to Coventry because they put up a great performance and they fought until the end, they are 8th in the Championship. Man United should never have ever let them even think they were going to be able to get through that tie, not even give them a glimmer of hope, and we did, and we've done it numerous times this season. So I can understand why people were criticising Ten Hag. I can completely understand it. The one thing I would say is I actually like the bite that Erik Ten Hag has. I actually like the fierceness that he has coming into this press conference. And because there was certain journalists that straight after the game were straight onto Twitter and going, Erik Ten Hag cannot survive this. Erik Ten Hag has to be sacked. I'm not naming names, everyone can have their own opinion, but there were journalists that are doing that, and these are journalists that, you know, are interacting with Erik Ten Hag on a daily basis. You can have your opinion, or a weekly basis, you can have your opinion, but there were people that were going straight for Erik Ten Hag has to be sacked, he has to be sacked now, when we've just got through to an FA Cup final. Of course, comments on the performance, they have to be there, and I think they are justified. I do think Erik Ten Hag is a bit extreme to call them embarrassing, I'm going to be honest, because what was embarrassing was the fact Man United couldn't hold on to a 3-0 lead and we nearly bottled it against Coventry. We were one penalty kick away from bottling it against Coventry. Like, that would have been massively embarrassing. So, like I said, I don't think Ten Hag can win. If he comes out and backs the players and backs the team, people are going to say, you know, we'd have more understanding and more respect for Erik Ten Hag if he just came out and said it how it was, the same way Rangnick did when he came out and was honest about the state of the squad, state of the players and the situation that Man United are in. I think Man United fans would have a hell of a lot more respect and understanding if Erik Ten Hag did that. But at the same time, if he did that, he risked losing the dressing room. Rangnick was a dead man walking from early doors, so he could say them things, and look what happened to him. Like, once he said them things, he was very quickly shifted out of the football club. You risk losing the dressing room with an FA Cup final coming, and people would say, you know, bad man management, you're going to lose the dressing room by speaking like this. So Ten Hag can't win. What I would say is it looks like a guy that is under a lot of pressure, and I actually do think a lot of the criticism for that game was justified, because there's no way that Manchester United should ever be bottling that. But anyway, get in the comments what you think. Let's run a poll on this actually. Is Erik Ten Hag justified by calling the comments after the Coventry game embarrassing? Let me know in the chat what you think. Hedge to Hedge says the opposition were good players and don't take that away from them. It's a semi-final and teams fight better. Honestly, I get you. Like, it's a semi-final. Performance levels are going to be raised. You're at Wembley. The Coventry fans were very, very good. There's no excuse. There's no excuse. The injuries are not an excuse. The fact it's a semi-final at Wembley is not an excuse. Players on that pitch should have seen out that result. Fact. End of story. And Ten Hag knows that. Like, a lot of people calling Ten Hag delusional. He knows that. Everybody knows that Erik Ten Hag went in on the dressing room at the full-time whistle. Went in. Like, he was fuming. But what he's coming out and saying in a press conference is he is protecting the team. He's protecting the dressing room. Whether that's the right thing for him to do or not, that's what he's chosen to do. He's chosen to go down that route. People, like I said, if he comes out and calls it out, people will say he's losing the dressing room and his man management's poor. If he doesn't, it's the opposite. So he really can't win. The one thing I can say as a fan, my own opinion, is I actually do think a lot of the comments were justified. Not the sacking comments, I think that was a bit over the top, but the comments on the performance, because the performance was embarrassing, I'm going to be honest, and Ten Hag doesn't like that, but that's my honest opinion on it. Next up is Ten Hag shares more bad injury news, and this gives us a little bit of an insight into the substitutions he made as well. So Erik Ten Hag says, we had a problem with Alejandro Garnacho, which is why we took him off during the game, but I think he will be fine. Scott McTominay we have to assess today, very doubtful. Marcus Rashford is also doubtful, and there was also an issue with Bruno Fernandes with the hand, but I think he can make it. We have some doubts going into the game tomorrow. From what I've seen with Scott and Marcus Rashford walking through the mix zone, Scott McTominay was walking as if he had an issue, and Rashford definitely looked like he had an issue, and I think he was saying something was swollen as well, if I could overhear that correctly. I don't think them two will be able to make it against Sheffield United. It's such a quick turnaround. By the way, the same turnaround as what Pep Guardiola was massively complaining about in his post-match interview in the FA Cup. We played extra time and penalties. We've got to play again on Wednesday. It was the exact same turnaround as what they had in the Champions League to the FA Cup. Fair enough, their competitors are Real Madrid and Chelsea, and ours were Coventry City and Sheffield United. But it still is that sort of turnaround. So I think it is tough, especially considering we're going for an injury crisis. It is tough. Sheffield United, again, another game. It's at Old Trafford. You know, if we're missing certain players, we still should be able to get the job done. Like, Sheffield United are probably one of the worst teams I've ever seen play in the Premier League. Like, genuinely, there's no excuse. There's just no excuse for it. We are suffering with injuries. We should be in a position where, to be honest, we can rest a few players against Sheffield United. I don't know if Man United are in that position right now because of how poor the performances are. But on the Garnacho thing, I think Mark Goldbridge actually put out a tweet, Mark from the United Stand, saying that he thinks people should apologise for Erik for the Garnacho substitution because we didn't know it was because of an injury, and he's the first person to say that he's sorry because a lot of people are criticising him for that. On that, I would say it's happened numerous times across the season. Like, it happened against Chelsea. I get it happened at Bournemouth because of an illness, and he wasn't quite back fit, so that was understandable. But he's been substituted very frequently across the season, earlier than what I think he should have been. So, yeah, in that game, you can say the Garnacho substitution was probably down to injury, like Erik Ten Hag said, but that doesn't excuse all the other times we've done it. And also, just because Garnacho had to come off for injury doesn't mean he couldn't substitute Rashford. Rashford needed to come off way earlier than what he did, and Rashford's ended up with an injury as well off the back of it. But Ten Hag should have subbed Rashford earlier because his performance was poor, and he wasn't offering nothing. Any fan from the crowd could have told you that Rashford wasn't offering nothing for the rest of that game. Again, it was kind of blind hope keeping him on the pitch, hoping a moment of magic was going to come. But how many times have we done that this season? He's not the same Marcus Rashford as last season. This season, it's just not been the case. And what is the harm in substituting both Garnacho if it's injury purposes and Rashford, and bringing on Ahmad and Antony? Both are very, very capable. Ahmad was very good when he came on. OK, Antony didn't have a good performance when he came on, but it's Coventry City. Like, we could have made them substitutions. We could have subbed Rashford as well, because, let's be honest, like, Rashford wasn't going to offer anything more than what he already was. So you could have at least tried something else. Like, I genuinely think you could have put a lot of people from the bench, even some of the youth players, and they could have given you a bit of something, because Rashford just wasn't working. So for me, the Garnacho substitution, the injury being an excuse, I understand it, but it doesn't make up for the fact of why he didn't make other changes as well that probably should have been made. But yeah, Bruno Fernandes, we know for a fact that he's going to play tomorrow. Like, he's the captain, he never misses games. He's had issues, he's played through injuries, he's played at centre-back with one leg against Liverpool. He just doesn't miss his games. I would have liked that we're in a position tomorrow where we could afford to give Bruno Fernandes a rest and we don't have to play him. Even more, I would love it if we were in a position tomorrow where we're beating Sheffield United 2 or 3-0 and you think, you know what, we can take Bruno off, give him a rest. By half-time, 60th minute, we can give him a rest. But unfortunately, this team has a track record is you could be literally 4 or 5-0 up and you still wouldn't trust them to see it out, because that's where we've been this season. And against many, you'd say, oh, but it's Sheffield United. It was Coventry City and we bottled 3-0. Do you know what I mean? In a semi-final of an FA Cup. So we're in a position where our best players need to play, and we are scraping through games. So Bruno, I think he will play. And I actually think McTominay missing is a loss. I know a lot of people in the community don't think he's good enough, but in the position that we're in, I actually thought he played quite well against Coventry, got the goal, he can score goals. And honestly, I don't like the thought of Eriksen playing after the way he played when he came on in the FA Cup. Again, good on the ball, technically, Eriksen. Probably could do a job against Sheffield United at home, you would think. But it's just the physicality that worries me. But get in the comments what you guys think. Got the votes going in the chat. Is Ten Hag's comments justified in calling the media reaction embarrassing after a semi-final win? Get your comments in down below. I'm going to say they're not justified. A lot of you guys are saying they are, 71%. I know that Goldbridge will think they absolutely are justified and he'll love this. I like the way he's coming out backing himself. Like, I want to be clear, I like the way Ten Hag is fighting and he's coming out backing himself, but I don't agree with what he's saying, because it just doesn't add up when you look at the rest of our performances this season. And we've got a few chats in saying Ahmad as Cam, we will be there. Well, Ahmad did kind of move into that position in the game against Coventry. He can play that position, so it is one of them where you know, Ahmad is going to get another chance on Wednesday. Ahmad is going to get another chance. How many chances does Ahmad need to prove to Ten Hag that he should be getting more game time? He should be. He proved it against Liverpool. Brilliant cameo. How many times do I have to say it? Despite the goal, a brilliant cameo. Against Bournemouth, you know, we won the half that he was on 1-0. When he came onto the pitch, it was 2-1, and then we ended up drawing 2-2. We won his half 1-0. Like, what is the worry about playing Ahmad? Like, he will get another opportunity against Sheffield United because Rashford's injured. So whether it's off the bench or whether it's from starting, he will get an opportunity. He will be used in that game. I hope he has a good performance, because there's only so many times he can knock on the door and Ten Hag ignore him. Obviously, I understand he needs to gain Erik Ten Hag's trust, but he should have gained Erik Ten Hag's trust by now in the way that he's performed. Because Rashford, I just don't think there's a chance that he'll make it for Wednesday. I just don't think Ten Hag will risk him, and I don't think he'll play him. And honestly, I hope he gets back from his injury quickly, because you don't want anyone to be injured. But he's not a miss at the minute. He's playing very, very poorly. He's just not a miss at all. So I think he'll probably start Antony and Garnacho. I think Garnacho will make it, and I think he will start him. But Garnacho, if he is suffering with a bit of injury, will probably need a bit of respite. Ahmad will come on. One of them players will get subbed off, and Ahmad will come on. So Ahmad will get opportunity. You expect him to get quite a bit of opportunity against Sheffield United. I hope he can do something. I think it's a perfect time for him. Sheffield United at home, the fans will be massively behind him. I really hope he does get a look in, because he's done really well, and I think he's being overlooked, and I don't think it's fair. Also, I just want to say, on Forson, I actually think Forson played quite well when he came on against Coventry. I don't know if it's because the rest of our team was playing so poor, but I thought he had quite a good, nice little cameo, so I thought I'd get that in there as well. Garner, Rasmus and Ahmad would be a good front three, says Turplux. I'd love him to start Ahmad and Garnacho on the wings, I'm going to be honest. I think that would be a great combination. You've got the directness of Garnacho, the pace, the flair, the dribbling to just go at players. And then you've got Ahmad, who, again, has great flair. He's good technically on the ball, can see the little intricate passes, makes the right decision in terms of passing on the football in and around the box. I think it'd make a really good combination. You've got the directness of Garnacho, and then you've got the creativity of Ahmad. And you know what? Rasmus actually might get a few chances with Ahmad on the wing, looking for a striker in the box. So I would love to see that. I'd love to see that. And then if Antony plays, he had a couple of really good performances recently, then came on against Coventry, and it was a poor cameo, let's be honest. Like, if he does get the opportunity, which I think he will, I think Ten Hag will go with Antony over Ahmad. I know the fan base would probably go for Ahmad. He needs to step up. Sheffield United at home, like, it's an opportunity. So again, you know, a lot of people complaining that Rashford is continually getting the starts and he doesn't deserve to. Understand that, but Rashford, if he's not available in this game, which it doesn't look like, this is a big opportunity for the players around him in fighting for his position to step up and prove why they should be in the team. And to be honest, it won't take much, because Rashford isn't really offering much at the minute. Ten Hag addresses European hopes. He says, yes, we have them, but we have to win every game. That's what United stands for. That is our approach. Go from game to game, but we have to qualify for Europe, and we have 2 opportunities in the league and the FA Cup final. In the league, I think it's going to be really tough. You'd hope we'd get Europa League, but even that, I am questioning right now, to be honest with you, and especially with the teams around us. And then the FA Cup final. But you would think that Sheffield United and Burnley are 6 points in the bag. You'd think it, wouldn't you? But with this team, you never know. FA Cup final, let's be honest, everyone, it's going to be super tough against Man City. I mean, you've got to be in it to win it, but that'll be if our European hopes are resting on winning that, then the slim. We've got to get it boxed off in the league. Like, we've got to get it boxed off in the league. Then Erik Ten Hag gets asked about Antony's post-match antics versus Coventry. This one, where he cupped his ears. Oh, just actually knocked out my earpiece. But on that, with Antony doing that celebration, can I just say, from my point of view, because I didn't get to speak because I wasn't on the forum because I was at Wembley, is it disrespectful? Yeah, okay. Was it? I wouldn't say disrespectful. I'd say it was distasteful. It was distasteful. And I agree, the way Maguire handled it, went over, shook the hand, showed respect, that's the way you do it. But in the moment, Antony's very happy to get through. The Coventry players have already done this as well previously, but that won't get looked at when they were taking their penalties. And it's in the heat of the moment and he's buzzing to get through. Like, does anyone really actually deep that much? Like, it's not that deep. It really isn't that deep. Things happen in the heat of the moment. To be honest, like, the most you can say about it is it's a bit embarrassing. Like, it's Coventry City, who are a championship team, and they've made you go to penalties, and they've played really well, and they deserve a bit of respect. So yeah, it's embarrassing, but it's not like people were going absolutely in on the celebration. I mean, I think, you know what, it's heat of the moment, things happen. Like, it's really not that deep, to be honest with you. Like, I'd rather a player be, you know, happy about getting through than not bothered, to be honest with you. The only issue is it was distasteful, and I think it's just him. I think it's him, you know, kind of being in, you know, he's not grown up within English football, and maybe he doesn't understand the kind of the huge performance that Coventry City put in to be at that point, and the respect that needed to be shown. But Erik Ten Hag will talk to him about that, and I really just don't think it's that deep. Like, I couldn't believe people were deep in it that much. Like, he's cupped his ears, so what? At least he's happy to get through, and like, I'm sure, like, he never would have meant it in a disrespectful way. It's just what happens. But it did come across just a little bit distasteful, and that's it. But he got asked about it in his press conference, and he said, did you see the reaction of Harry Maguire? As in, Maguire handled it really well, which he did. And big credit to Maguire, by the way. I have massive respect for Maguire, because the way he congratulated them showed the way you should go about being gracious in winning in a game like that, but also like just playing through injury for the club and being available and actually putting in good performances. I want to show a bit of respect for Maguire, because obviously he has been through a tough time at United, and a lot of his performances have warranted a lot of criticism, but this season he's been really good for us when we've needed him, and playing through injury is something that not every single player does, and I respect it. So Ten Hag says he was provoked. That's why there was that reaction. You haven't seen they haven't seen that the Coventry City players did provoke Antony. You've only seen the reaction, but he should not do it. I have seen Harry Maguire straight after, and the others. We should acknowledge the performance of Coventry coming into that final and the comeback. We are only 70 minutes totally dominating the game by far. 3-0 must have been the game is closed, but the return from their side was very good. So Ten Hag then just saying that Antony was provoked, which is why he got that reaction, but still, he shouldn't do it. It's not that deep. People are going way too over the top with it on social media, and I think it's just because, you know, probably a lot of people are frustrated with Antony's performances this season more than anything, that they've got a bit frustrated at that. SK, a member for 40 months. The reality of the situation probably was just the difference in culture and experience. Sometimes we expect people to know and behave as the locals do. Exactly, that's what I said. Like, you know, Antony's Brazilian. He's not from England. He's not grown up around English football. He probably just didn't understand it. Like, I think people just went a little bit OTT in criticising him for that. Like, I agree, it's not the most tasteful thing to do. He shouldn't have done it, but it's not that deep. Next up on Jason Wilcox's arrival, Erik Ten Hag speaks about Jason Wilcox's arrival. He says, very close, we have to form a partnership. I'm very impressed. We are a little bit behind in the process, so we will go and speed up the process. I met him yesterday for the first time. This week we will not have so much time, and I know his profile, a lot of experience in the youth, and 1 year at Southampton. I am looking forward to this partnership. So Ten Hag speaking there as if he's going to be working with Jason Wilcox, very happy about the partnership. Fun fact, my brother, who while he was waiting for me to come out of Wembley, because he was also at Wembley, bumped into Jason Wilcox, and Jason Wilcox said, fun first day at work. So Jason Wilcox is starting. He started at Manchester United, and when Ten Hag says we need to get up to speed, I think he means with recruitment for the summer. Because if you would have watched the Romano interview on the United stand yesterday, and Matt spoke about it a bit on his morning show as well, like, the recruitment for the summer is just nowhere near where it needs to be up till now. The process, we've not even nailed down our targets. I don't think we know what direction we're going in. The only clarification we've got is that we'll definitely sign a young left back. Varane looks like he's leaving, and we're definitely going to sign a striker, but we have no idea which one. Everything else is sort of up in the air. So I think Ten Hag needs to work with Jason Wilcox quite quickly to get up to speed, because it does seem like, especially by Ten Hag's comments there, that Jason Wilcox is going to be leading a lot of the recruitment for this summer until Dan Ashworth gets in. So I think that's important. But, okay, this is the next thing I wanted to come on to. Ten Hag addresses United's lack of focus. He says, the most important thing that we can do is put ourselves in a winning position by a good structure, and we have seen that on many occasions. But we have seen with the first goal and other games, but bring the game over the line. Some things we have to do with the mentality, with the physics, but we don't have the tools. We have a back four and we have to make compromises and be really creative, but we can't sub players there as well. What you need is a full squad, and then you can take messages from your side, repair things. It's a matter of mentality and some game reading, and opposition takes more risk. We have to improve it, and we need a full squad to repair that. So Ten Hag, basically, to put that into kind of terms there, because it, with the way Ten Hag speaks sometimes, it's hard to make sense of it, and especially when it's written down quickly after a press conference. But what Ten Hag's saying is United do really well to put themselves in winning positions, but then due to physicality and mentality, we can drop off, and we need to be way better at seeing out games and getting games over the line. And this has to do with mentality and experience with the in-game management. He also says we need a full squad, and we've had to deal with injuries. If we were playing a Liverpool, a Man City, an Arsenal, injury excuse would wash. I'd get it. I don't care how many injuries we had. With the team that we had against Coventry, there is no excuse about needing a full squad to see out that game. Like, that game should have been seen out. And I was one of the people that criticised the Mainu and Garnacho subs, but even with the players that came on, that game should have been seen out. Injuries cannot be an excuse in that game, especially when you look at, how much Coventry City players get paid, how much that squad was paid for. I mean, and then you look at the amount of money that the players we had on the pitch are on, and how much we paid for them, and how much, United would think they're worth. Like, there's no way you can use injuries as an excuse of United's lack of focus in that game. What he is right on is the in-game management needs to be a lot better, reading the game, and that's something he needs to work on with the team. And he is right with the mentality and the physicality. Physicality, we look absolutely burnt out. We don't look fit enough, and players have probably had to play too many minutes because of other injuries, and we're relying on a lot of players. For example, like I said, Rasmus is going to play the amount of minutes he did in the FA Cup semi-final. He's going to play again against Sheffield. He's going to play again against Burnley, because we don't have any other players. So players are going to be burnt out. I get that. And mentally, we have mental block. Like, it's happened too many times this season. So that's something we need to get hold of. And senior players in the squad really need to get to grips with it. They really do. Because no matter who was on the pitch, bottling that lead against Coventry, it's not acceptable. And the leaders need to call that out. And Ten Hag really needs to work on this, because you are the manager. You're setting up the team. You're speaking to the team at half-time. At the end of the day, you have to get the message into these players about in-game management and mentality. Also, interesting fact for you as well, Manchester United have had leads of 2+ goals in only 11 games this season. Like I said, it's always really tight. But in 3 of those, they have failed to hold out for a win. So in 3 out of 11 games with 2+ goal leads, we failed to hold out for a win. Like, that is, it's not a stat you want put next to your club. It's something we massively need to work on. So, last thing that Ten Hag got asked on was the Nottingham Forest saga, if anyone didn't see. I mean, I got caught up on this on Monday morning because obviously we was at Wembley the whole day and I was just focused on United, but Nottingham Forest should have had at least 2 penalties, potentially even 3. Like, I understand why they were really frustrated. Do I agree with the way that they put the statement out? No, I don't think it was professional. I don't think it was a good look. Ten Hag got asked about it and he said, you can't do that. You can disagree. For example, the handball on Aaron Wan-Bissaka is totally wrong. A mistake, but you can't question it. It is not good for the game and the refereeing. We should respect them. And with that, there is no respect. So Erik Ten Hag, they're basically saying that he doesn't agree with the way Nottingham Forest have handled it and it wasn't respectful and referees deserve respect. I agree with him in the sense of I like the fact he got the Wan-Bissaka thing in there because the Wan-Bissaka handball wasn't a penalty. And it's a really fine line because the officiating needs to be called out because it's terrible. How is it going to change if nobody calls it out? Because the handball against Grealish in the exact same stadium, the exact same competition, doesn't get given. The next day, it's way less an offence by Aaron Wan-Bissaka and it gets given. And both of these situations go to VAR. Like, just send them over to the monitor. I don't understand it. Like, they should be sent over to the monitor if there's any sort of doubt whatsoever over it. So, and it's not the first time that this has happened. It's happened all season. Man United have been burnt by it. Nottingham Forest have been burnt with it a lot. You have Wolves who have been burnt by it a lot. Like, there is clubs that are suffering because of the inconsistency of VAR and the refereeing in the English game. So it does need to be called out. But there's a way to call it out. And I don't think the way that Nottingham Forest worded it was right at all. They basically accused PG and Moel of corruption by telling everybody that, you know, one of the VARs was a Luton fan and all that sort of stuff. So I think we need to be respectful in the way that we say it, but it does need calling out. So yeah, Erik Ten Hag basically said that himself, that we've got to show a bit of respect there, but that's probably just a PR answer, to be honest. Like, you know, Ten Hag probably gets briefed before his press conferences and they've probably been said, if you get asked about that, say this. So, you know, obviously Ten Hag is a man who speaks for himself, but, you know, he'll have media training and that's kind of what the answer is. But this is where we're at now. This is an interesting chat as well. Matt Thrower, respect is earned. The officiating this season has been awful. Is no one allowed to question it? It will only get worse. No, 100% it should be questioned. It absolutely should be questioned. It should be called out. But when you are an actual club of Nottingham Forest and you're making a statement, there's just the way that you should make the statement. And I just think it was quite threatening the way that they did that. But each to their own. That's not the way I would have gone about it personally. But that's the way that they've decided to go with it. Manish Sahal says, hi Beth, I would like Sir Jim Ratcliffe to be at the whole week of training for the final to see the intensity versus how they are performing on the pitch. I mean, Sir Jim himself probably wouldn't do that, but I think it's definitely an idea to put his team of people in there to kind of watch that. I mean, isn't that what's already happening? Erik Ten Hag apparently is going to basically be on trial now until the end of the season, and Jason Wilcox is putting together a complete kind of audit of Erik Ten Hag and he's going to assess him to see if he thinks he can function and work with this Manchester United squad and the way that Ineos want to build out for the future. So he kind of is already starting to do that, because Sir Jim isn't the guy that's going to be making the footballing decisions. He's got people in place to make them. Obviously he'll have the final say, but he's got the footballing people in place to make them. So Jason Wilcox probably will be a lot more involved now he's started. A bit late, but here we are. Alex Marman says, if Rashford is a doubt, is it maybe a blessing? I never wish for injuries, but with how bad he has been, it is a valid point. More game time for Ahmad too. Well, I was saying that. Never wish for injuries. I hope Rashford has the recovery, but it's not a loss. Like, it's not a loss because he hasn't been performing very well. And Ahmad does have a chance now to impress Erik Ten Hag and earn a spot into the team, which I think as much as that should be the case, where if Ahmad performs super well against Sheffield United, he should start again against Burnley. I mean, I'm going to be honest, I think Ahmad could perform really well. The way he did in that Liverpool FA Cup cameo, and I still think if Rashford was back fit on Saturday, he'd start over him, and that's the issue that a lot of fans have with Ten Hag at the minute. Like me, myself, there's a lot to like about Ten Hag, and I agree with what Goldwood was saying on the morning show. Like, if he's pulling off, you know, these sort of finals now, imagine when we've actually had a clear out, we've got a structure and he's allowed to build a proper team, what he could be achieving and when we're playing well. But at the same time, there's things to like about Ten Hag. I honestly think he's a really nice guy. I think he's a good guy, and I think he is a good coach. I think a lot of managers come into Man United and get sucked into the circus. But the one thing that really does drive me up the wall is his favouritism and not giving certain players a chance into the team when I feel like they do deserve it. And I think Ahmad is one of them that is missing out. So, yeah, this is that's the kind of situation that we're in right now, and hopefully Ahmad does get a bit of game time and he can prove why he should be part of the team. Because am I saying Ahmad absolutely is going to be a starter for Man United, he's going to be a world beater for Man United for years to come? No, I'm not saying that. I've not seen enough of him to say that. But what I am saying, in a team that's underperforming, he deserves a shot based off what the cameos he's put together so far. He deserves at least a chance. And then, you know what, if he has a chance in the team and he's not up to scratch, then we know, and you know, you can make a decision on him in the summer. Do you know what I mean? Like I've said this, with Elise now, we're looking at buying Elise. I want to see Ahmad first before we pull the trigger on 60 million on a right winger. So if Ahmad isn't good enough, then okay, yeah, I understand going for a right winger, but let's, you know, we're at the end of the season now. There's not really much to play for anyway, apart from the FA Cup. Like, let's see a bit of Ahmad, like, especially considering it's not as if anyone's pulling up any trees. Like, you can afford to give him that game time. But yeah, that's where I'm at the moment. Interesting press conference. The vote from you guys is in on if you think Ten Hag's comments were justified in calling the media reaction embarrassing. You guys said 71% yes and 29% no. So a lot of you getting behind Erik Ten Hag. I am behind him. I really hope he can pull something out for the final. It's massive, massive hope, because I don't think there's much of a chance, to be honest. But I'm going to be behind the team the whole way. And I think these players now, I know we're in a complete injury crisis, but these players need to show some professional pride, get themselves together. The leaders in that team, it shouldn't all be down to Erik Ten Hag. The leaders in that team need to pull themselves together, and we need to be cracking on. And we need to iron out this bottlers mentality in the squad. And Erik Ten Hag, do I think some of his comments are how would I put it? I do think some of his comments are not completely truthful on the fact of what is happening. I do think he is over-egging the pudding a little bit in certain areas, and I do think there was warranted criticism after that Coventry game, I'm going to be honest. But Ten Hag's come out swinging, and I like the attitude, I like the swagger, and I like the fact that he has the bit between his teeth. That's the word. He has the bit between his teeth. He's got a bit of grit. I like to see that. But look, that was the press conference reaction, everyone. Hit a like on the video if you're excited for the FA Cup final against Manchester City. I mean, I think it's just over a month now until the FA Cup final. I think that will be do or die for Ten Hag. I think it'll be huge in terms of the future for him at Manchester United and his job. I am still Erik Ten Hag in. I still want to build with this manager, because I believe that there's other problems at the football club as well. Get in the comments what you guys think. Get in the comments, who would you start as your front three against Sheffield United? Who would you start in the midfield? Who would you start in the defence, considering the injury crisis that we've got going on at the moment? How do you expect Manchester United to approach this game? Do you think it's going to be a tough one again? I mean, the fact that we're even saying that against Sheffield United at Old Trafford is absolutely wild, but that's the position that we're in. But look, everyone, have a lovely rest of your Tuesday. 8 p.m. show will be back tonight. It might be at 7 because of the Chelsea game. I don't know if Goldbridge is doing a watch-along, but watch out for that. It will be at 7 o'clock, the evening show, so stay tuned for that. Have a lovely rest of your day. Hit a like on the video, get your comments in the chat, and I will see you on the next one.